So are you, so are you. I love Allah, I love Allah. Do you too? What is Islam? What is Islam? Do you know? Do you know? It is five principles. It is five principles. Now do you know? Now do you know?
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May the peace and blessings of Allah be with each one of you. For those who are daily submitting their will to the will of Allah, it is my pleasure to be with you today. If you're still thinking about submitting to Allah and haven't made that decision, I really recommend that you go and learn a little bit more about Islam. Perhaps even visit the Peace TV website where you can see upcoming programs. Maybe find your program that will suit your questioning, what you want to find out about Islam. So, inshallah, today we are continuing with the series that we have been dealing with on youth issues, youth ambassadors for Islam. So as youth ambassadors, we spoke the last time that we were on, we spoke about how you have the opportunity to be an ambassador for Islam. And this is an honor and a privilege for all of us. It's not just the youth, but it's for every one of us. You know, some people are what we call young at heart. You know, you might see a man who's 50 years old who's still young at heart. He likes to run around and play in the water, and he does a lot of youthful activities. So we say that person is young at heart. But this program is not for the young at heart, it's actually for the youth. For you young people who are dealing with the issues that you are having to face each and every day in your society or the community that you come from. And each society and each group has to face issues in a different way. If we look at perhaps the youth from America, they have different pressures than perhaps the youth from Uzbekistan or the youth from China. So everybody has some type of pressure. Sometimes we call this peer pressure on them. How do we deal with this, especially as ambassadors for Islam? One of the things that is very, very important for us to understand as ambassadors for Islam is that we need to gain a learning on how to smile. We have to learn how to smile. A smile is very, very important. And as we spoke about in the previous episode, that it is sunnah to smile, and that the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was very big on smiling. It was something that he encouraged his followers to do, something that he encouraged people to do. And we find many narrations where we find that he was laughing or smiling. So this is something that we must learn to put into our lives as Muslim youth. You know, many people measure the sign of piety by the upside down smile, and that's not a sign of piety. The sign of piety is a person who lives their religion, believes in what they are following. That's a sign of piety, who understands what Allah wants from their life. So as Muslim youth, you need to have a passion for Islam. You have to have a passion for what you believe in. And so smiling is a simple way, a simple first step. Maybe you don't know all the answers to all the questions, but you do know how to smile. And that will help you in just a simple way to break through some barriers with people that you are speaking to. I've seen so many times when maybe I've been in a bad mood or haven't been, you know, feeling up to it, whatever the task might be for the day. And I walk past someone and they smile, and immediately it lights up my entire day. So you can do the same thing. And it's a good practice to have. You know, there's medical research that has been done. I'm not going to go into all that because I'm not a doctor. But that says it releases endorphins in your body. In other words, it's almost like a drug. Smiling is almost like a drug. It gives you that happy feeling and releases endorphins into your body that picks up your mood. So sometimes even if you're feeling depressed, you maybe can practice smiling. You know, just smile. There's two types of smiles. There's a smile that you do with your mouth, and there's a smile that you do with your eyes. And the researchers say that if you smile with your eyes and your mouth, that it releases endorphins into your body and it puts you in a better mood. So here the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ knew about this long before psychiatrists or psychologists had told us that we need to do this. Now smiling is a key as well to opening up conversations with people. It helps us to, you know, speak to people in a way that maybe wouldn't been able to do if we weren't doing that. If you walk into a conversation and you're frowning and you're angry, already everybody closes up and they tighten up and they look down and they don't want to be part of the conversation. Now, obviously, it mustn't be fake either. People are not silly. They can see a fake smile. You know those presidential smiles when it comes up to times of the elections and you see the president walking around, maybe he's holding a baby and smiling for the cameras. Everybody knows that is fake. So we want to be genuine in what we're doing. We don't want to be the child patter picking up a child and smiling for the camera with a fake smile. We want to be genuine. From what the heart is full of, the mouth will show. Or what the heart is full of, the tongue will speak. So if you're genuinely happy inside, that will come out. Men, remember this. Do not be flirtatious with your smile. You know, there's that one guy in your class, or the one person in your school. All the people say, well, if he smiles, everyone just crumbles because he's got a very good smile or a very good face. Be careful not to be flirtatious, especially the men. Don't be flirtatious and start smiling at every girl you see, because that is something that is not permissible. So be careful what you do with your face. Be careful what you do with your smile. There is Islamic rulings concerning how we interact with one another. So don't use your smile as a ticket to mixing with people of the opposite sex. This is very, very dangerous. You know, many of you might be laughing at this and thinking this is old-fashioned and old school that are even saying this. But there is a danger with that. Even when people are sending me emails or sending me text messages and they're of the opposite sex, as quickly as possible, I try to hand them over to another sister to deal with. It protects you. Like I said in the previous episode before, it takes you your whole life to gain a name. It takes you 5 minutes to lose it. And how many people have we seen in society today, politicians, religious leaders, great humanitarians, who have lost everything because they started to mix with the opposite sex and started to move on to things that they shouldn't be doing. And then their whole career was destroyed. Everything about them that everybody looked up to was suddenly destroyed with one simple act of doing something that they shouldn't have done, that was forbidden in Islam. So we need to make sure that we have that understanding, that we need to use a yardstick. What is a yardstick? In the old days, they used to take a stick and they'd measure out distance between growing crops, maybe for building, almost like a tape measure we would have today. So what is your tape measure for safety in your life? So use your yardstick, use your measuring tape on what you can and cannot do. And that you have to ask Allah alone to guide you and to direct you with. Some people are stronger than other people. But as a general rule, rather stay away from those situations to start with. Dawah is no excuse to have conversations with people of the opposite sex. You know, sometimes we use that as an excuse. We say, well, you know, I'm on all the social medias because I'm doing dawah. You know, I'm on Twitter because I'm doing dawah. I'm on Facebook because I'm doing dawah. I'm on whatever social network is of the day because I'm doing dawah. And when you actually look at those people's profiles or you look at their wall where they've written all the things, you don't see any dawah going on. It's more about flirtatious things and sports events and cars and what band is going to be playing and what musician you like. Instead of being about Islam, instead of being about how to become a better human being in society. Remember, when we use the word Islam, we need to understand what we are saying by this. We're not talking about Islam like Catholicism or Islam like Buddhism or Hinduism or any of the other isms that we find in society today. When we use the word Islam, we are saying submission to God, freely, of your own free will, choosing to give your life over to Allah, to submit to Him. You know, there is a term that is used, that the Jews used to use. It's called a bond slave. And I wish I had a ring with me so I could show you. In the old days, the slaves would put a ring on their finger. And these rings would represent that the slave was now set free, and he had chosen, even though he had been set free, he had done his 20 years or 30 years as a slave, even though he had been set free, he chose to come back to his master's work and to work for his master till the day he died. And because of that, the master would put a ring on his finger. And this person would walk around the marketplace, and everyone that saw that ring on his finger would say, wow, you must have the greatest master on the earth, that you would choose to become a slave even though you were set free. And in this way, we as Muslims are the same. We have the opportunity to do anything in society, anything in the world that we could or wanted to do. Yet we chose to be slaves to Allah. We chose to follow Islam and to have that ring that we put on our finger. This is the true ring, the ring of truth, and that is Tawheed. There is no other God, no other deity, no other being worthy of worship other than Allah. And that we freely, of our own choice, submit to Allah. You might even be born as a Muslim youth into a Muslim family, and so you think you're a Muslim. I've often said that you as a Muslim who may have been born into a Muslim family are no different to me who chose Islam. There still has to come a point in your life as a born Muslim that you decide that you're going to submit to Allah and to be the best ambassador that you can possibly be. To submit to Allah, not to submit to a religion like Catholicism or Buddhism or Hinduism or Islam as a religion. You're submitting to Islam as submitting to God. So this is something you have to understand, submitting to the one and only. So this is something that is very, very important for us to understand as ambassadors. So first of all, as an ambassador, you have to understand that you need to smile. Secondly is why you're ambassador or who you're ambassador to. You're submitting to the one true God. You're submitting to Allah. That Islam is not a structured religion. You know, many people keep saying to me, I'm so sick of organized religion that I don't want to worship any God. I'm sick of organized religion. And I will say, well, why don't you become a Muslim? Because Islam is an individual relationship between you and your Creator. It is a belief system because Islam means to submit to Allah. So the belief in submitting to Allah. Religion is not going to teach you how to submit to Allah. Only your belief is going to be able to teach you how to submit to Allah. Because Islam is a belief system. It's different to other belief systems in the world because it allows its individual characters, its individual adherents, you and I, to make a decision on the information that we have before us. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. When I first became a Muslim 11 years ago, I didn't know what I know now. Even 2 years or 3 years ago, in 2009, my beard was not as long as it is now. As he teaches you different things, you will develop changes in your character. It is not a human being that will tell you how to do these changes. It is by reading the Quran, by reading the Hadith, by being around people that will help you to be a better Muslim, that you'll learn how to be a better changed person. So it is not by some order coming down from the Vatican. It is not some order coming down through some guru somewhere that is going to help you to become a better Muslim. It is by your desire to want to become a better Muslim. Well, it's time for us to take a break, and when we get back from the break, we will continue, inshallah.
What is Islam?
Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome back. I got a couple of emails from people who said that while they're working, they listen to Pete's TV in the background. They put it on in the background and they work in their offices while they're listening. Alhamdulillah. That means you're making that effort to learn more about Islam. Perhaps you don't always watch the television set, but at least you're listening to it. Keep it on in your office. I mean, there's so many social medias and ways that you can pick up Peace TV now. You can pick it up on television, you can pick it up on your mobile phone, you can pick it up on your iPad. So make sure that you put that, get that app, download that app, so that when you perhaps sitting on the bus, maybe sitting on the train, perhaps you're in the workplace, tune in, listen to good quality programming. The programming that will help you to become a better Muslim. Today we're focusing with Muslim youth, and we are speaking specifically about being an ambassador for Islam. And we spoke before the break that, you know, being smiling is very, very important, and understanding what Islam is. That Islam is not a structured religion. You know, many people keep saying to me, I'm so sick of organized religion that I don't want to worship any God. I'm sick of organized religion. And I will say, well, why don't you become a Muslim? Because Islam is an individual relationship between you and your Creator. It is a belief system because Islam means to submit to Allah. So the belief in submitting to Allah. Religion is not going to teach you how to submit to Allah. Only your belief is going to be able to teach you how to submit to Allah. Because Islam is a belief system. It's different to other belief systems in the world. Because it allows its individual characters, its individual adherents, you and I, to make a decision on the information that we have before us. Let me give you an example of what I mean by that. When I first became a Muslim 11 years ago, I didn't know what I know now. Even 2 years or 3 years ago, in 2009, my beard was not as long as it is now. As he teaches you different things, you will develop changes in your character. It is not a human being that will tell you how to do these changes. It is by reading the Quran, by reading the Hadith, by being around people that will help you to be a better Muslim, that you'll learn how to be a better changed person. So it is not by some order coming down from the Vatican. It is not some order coming down through some guru somewhere that is going to help you to become a better Muslim. It is by your desire to want to become a better Muslim. So every year when I look back, if I look back at 2009 or 2010 or 11 or 12 or even 13, I look back at those years and I think, you've come such a long way. But it'll be a scary, scary day if I look back and I go, you haven't changed anything about your character. There's nothing new that you've added into your walk as a Muslim. Every single day as a Muslim youth, you must make changes, serious changes. Perhaps when it's Jummah, time for Jummah, you've not been clipping your nails. Maybe there's just a simple thing like that that you're going to do this year. But alhamdulillah, you've made a step in the right direction. Perhaps you're not doing your ablution properly. And this year, that's what you're going to concentrate on. You're going to concentrate on doing your ablution properly. Perhaps your ruku has not been done properly. And this year, that's what you're going to do. SubhanAllah, you've done that change. Not because of human beings. Not because of some sheikh. Not because of what you hear me say. But because you want to develop a closer relationship with your Creator. And that's what it's all about. That's what it's about, being an ambassador for Islam. To be an ambassador for Allah. I say an ambassador for Islam because Islam simply means submission to Allah. So indirectly we are saying you are an ambassador for Allah. Not that Allah needs an ambassador. Let me explain this to you. Allah does not need an advert on planet Earth. He is able to call people all on his own. There was no sheikh that came to me and said, let me tell you about Islam, Areeb, even though many did. Most of them I didn't listen to. There was a day and a time that Allah chose and called me. Why and how is a mystery even though I have written it out, even though I have spoken about my conversion or my reversion to Islam, it does not make any logical sense how that specific day and that specific time I became angry with somebody that led me to becoming a Muslim that day. There are so many people. There is a brother that I met recently, a Jewish brother, who is now a Muslim. In fact, he's an imam of one of the mosques in South Africa now. He came from an Orthodox Jewish background. And there was nothing about Islam that interested him until he heard the call to prayer. And when he heard the call to prayer, he became a Muslim. The story does not stop there. His grandfather, who was an Orthodox Jew, one of those Jews that you see with the plaits coming down from the side of the head and those big black hats that they wear. When he saw Muslims praying in Jamaat together, he became a Muslim by watching that. So was it somebody teaching him all the great mysteries of Islam, the 5 pillars of Islam? For me, it was me getting angry with somebody that led me to becoming a Muslim. For 2 Jews, it was one seeing brothers playing in Jamaat and the others watching somebody simply calling brothers to prayer. You see, Allah will call you when He wants to. We can give you all the answers to all the arguments about every question that you have about Islam. But it is only when our Creator, the Creator of everything, calls you that it's the right time. Otherwise, you're just hearing noises and you're just hearing sounds, but it's not actually getting through to you. Perhaps again, as a Muslim youth, you've been playing games with Islam. I mean, you may have been a Muslim your entire life and born in a Muslim family, and you're just listening to all this and going, well, that's for somebody else. I really wish my friend Muhammad had heard this. I really wish that my friend Iqbal had been listening to this program because it was for him. It's not for Iqbal. It's not for Muhammad, it's for you. If you're listening to this program, it's you, the person who is supposed to have heard this message. Allah has ordained it that this day, at this time, you were supposed to hear this program. No matter how many times you listen to somebody on Peace TV and you think, this would have been perfect for so-and-so. It's not perfect for so-and-so, it's perfect for you. That's why you tuned in today. So take the little bits that you can out of this message today and apply it into your life. Now, as Muslim youth, you often think that, well, Islam is a bit old-fashioned. I mean, it's not up to date. Some of the things that my sheikh is asking me to do in our mosque is like so old school, so old-fashioned, it's outdated. You know, we need version 3.2. We need something more hip, something more up to date. You know, I remember going to one of the mosques in America, and they had this big projector in the front of the mosque. And as the imam was talking, he had like a computer on, and he was just pressing, and the PowerPoint would come up while you were inside the mosque, and you could read what he was saying. And I thought to myself, certain countries would not think that is appropriate. They would have said, no, that's haram, you're not allowed to put that in. There were no images, it was just words. But there's something good about that. We have to be careful that we don't throw everything out. Something good about that, because at least the people were paying more attention. And I noticed that people started to bring little notebooks and started writing notes. That's a very, very healthy thing to do. But there are dangers that sometimes we want to innovate, and we want to modernize and repackage and reshape Islam. And those people do that, we find after a few years they go very far away from what the true Islam is. And we find people saying, well, you know, the only way we're going to get the youth in is if we start playing guitars in meetings, in Muslim meetings, or we bring a drum in. And eventually what we find is people start moving further and further away from Islam. So we have to be careful that we don't modernize things that don't need to be modernized. Islam is already a modern religion. It's updated. It tells you things that no other religion has ever spoken about. And so these people who are doing these theories are now acknowledging what the Quran has said all along, that we will be raised back to life again. Not the same way as the Christians have explained it or the Jews have explained, because theirs is a very confusing type of resurrection. But the way the Quran explains it is the same way that mathematicians are now looking at it. So as an ambassador for Islam, you have the opportunity to show people that Islam is modern, it is updated, there's no need to make it more updated. We can go into the sciences of the Quran. You've heard that many, many times on Peace TV, people going into details about that. So be very, very careful when we want to try to modernize things and innovate. When we innovate, we destroy. This is why we find all religions in the world that started innovating are no longer in existence. And people might say, well, what about Christianity? Christianity is innovated. That's what I mean. They no longer exist. Look how it's falling apart. In my country, in South Africa, 10 million people will leave Christianity this year and become Muslims. It's because they have innovated. They have adapted. So as Muslim youth, the secret for success is no innovation. The secret for success is submitting to the one true God, submitting to Allah, because you want to, not because you're forced to. That's all the time we have for today. Inshallah, we'll continue with the series next week. But remember, this week that goes ahead, try to put into practice at least one or two things that we have spoken about today. So from me, Areeb Islam, until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
I am a Muslim, I am a Muslim, so are you, so are you. I love Allah, do you too?